Thank you, Presiding Officer. This budget exemplifies the failure of Scotland by two governments. Scotland, as a mid-sized European nation, abundant in both natural resources and human talent, should be thriving for all of our citizens. Yet here we are again in this Parliament voting on a budget that fails to even attempt to weave a Scottish silk purse from the pig's ear of Brexit Britain. I'm sympathetic to the Scottish Government's difficult position as junior partners in the flawed fiscal framework, but my sympathy will run out if the only response to the poor budgetary cards they have been dealt is hand-wringing and finger-pointing instead of substantive action on the delivery of the core mission that they were elected on. Scotland deserves better than a spiral of downstream cuts to public services, and we deserve better than a slashed capital budget, where critical investment in infrastructure is hamstrung by decisions made in Westminster. Our constituents deserve honesty in forecasting matters important to their lives, whether it's ASN school provisions or affordable homes, not continuing a pattern of delayed disappointment. In 2024, thousands of Scots are still being failed in their basic need for a home of their own. Many children are being raised in temporary accommodation due to a lack of social housing across Scotland, and the current desperate situation is not a blip, but a direction of travel. Proactive planning must replace reactive managed decline to tackle the challenges of an inadequate supply of homes and unlock the significant economic opportunities of building and sustaining communities across Scotland. And we can't afford not to act. The downstream consequences of insecure housing and homelessness are devastating to lives, to our society and also to the economy, exacerbating challenges to the sustained provision of health, of education and of welfare. But the brutal cut of £205 million in real terms to the Affordable Housing Supply Programme budget makes the current target to complete 110,000 affordable homes by 2032 increasingly unrealistic. Soaring build costs and supply chain delays have seen house builders go out of business in a climate of housing shortage. The reality is that the affordable housing budget, even as it stands, will now buy less than it could at the beginning of the parliamentary session. And the Scottish Government can't continue to fall back on its previous successful track record on housing. The recent Survation poll, which was commissioned by True North, found that 74% of Scots believe that we are experiencing a housing crisis. The Scottish Government is right to blame the disastrous impact of Brexit on construction supply chain issues, labour shortages and the inflationary pressures that are being driven by UK government financial mismanagement. Yet, 8 years on, we were dragged out of the EU against our will. Scotland has not yet had the right to choose, and Scotland's future is not in Scotland's hands. Campaign slogans fade, leaving the reality of managing the consequences across all sectors of our society, and the time for hollow words is over. The people of Scotland deserve clarity, transparency from both governments to enable them to plan their lives with security, and our country's vast resources must benefit the common weal, if not to be stuck in an ever-decreasing cycle of pulling our people out of the river. It's time that the Scottish Government go upstream and tackle why they keep falling in. The Government must publish the promised revised capital spending plan, considering both inflation and the reduced capital funding from the UK Government. And given that this is the second year in a row that the budget has been cut, coupled with increasing concerns across the sector as to the viability of this target, I think now we need an annual tracking commitment from the Government to present clarity. And that is not to manage disappointment of failed targets, but to address these threats to delivery head-on, allowing plans to pivot where required and to halt that impending housing crisis with real ambition for Scots.